Good evening. Welcome to the May 9th, 2022 Queensbury High School, Queensbury Union Free School District, Board of Education meeting. We're starting earlier today for the budget hearing. So if you join me in please rise, say pledge to the flag. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Yes, we're starting earlier this evening, so Mr. Whitmore can have the budget hearing presentation. Mr. Whitmore.
Recording.
So, appreciate everyone's time. This is an important moment in terms of what we do in terms of the community and presenting the education program for the students for next year. And really giving the public who are here and some that are online the opportunity to hear what we're doing with the budget and to present it to the community and then to get their input and to have them vote on it next Tuesday over in the elementary school. So the story of this budget has really been about the way the federal aid has supported growth within the budget itself. It's helped us with our long-term planning. It's helped us maintain jobs, and it's helped us maintain the programming. We've built into this budget consistent tax levy growth that we think will support the programming for years to come. And we're very pleased that the state has taken significant steps to remedy structural issues around equity related to foundation. We would not be here with sort of this rosy picture if not for the increases in federal aid, both at the state level and at the local level. The school district receives significant federal aid, the state receives significant federal aid. It's many, many years now since the state of New York had settled a lawsuit related to how state aid is distributed. And the foundation aid formulas that they put in place to deal with the settlement of that lawsuit have been frozen for many, many years. And they have negatively impacted many school districts, Queensbury being one of them. So I really give the state of New York some credit here where they've had this influx of money and they addressed that issue. And schools like Queensbury no longer have that structural foundation issue. So it will help us significantly continue this program in the future. The budget itself, we spent a lot of time on these different pieces, but the state aid is increasing significantly next year, again, related to the foundation aid. We do have a tax levy piece built in here. We do plan to reach to the community for tax levy increases in the future, in part because it builds into our long-term plan. Looking back several years ago, under challenging economic times, when school maybe had gone out.
Hi, Kelly.
Tax levy increase. Really, that growth is important for the school district to sustain its programming. We're using fund balance here. That's an important distinction from some in years past where we sort of built some fund balance as a budgeting tool. We're using a debt service transfer, reducing the amount of appropriated fund balance, loading sort of that cushion between actual expenditures and budget, and using money out of the debt service ad fund as we have capital debt expenses coming on for the construction project. That will begin construction this next, actually beginning now, and there will have construction payments due in the next fiscal year. I like to start with the slide when we talk about audited financial statements with the whole board as an audit committee in the late fall. And I think it's important to understand that where this money is spent, the community to understand that. We do spend a lot of time talking about projects, sometimes we spend a lot of time talking about busing, but what's important to understand is the money goes to instructional costs. When we look at the district as an entity-wide, including items like capital funding, school lunch programming, and some monies that come from the federal government, most of the money goes to instruction, with a small amount going for pupil transportation, small amount going for debt service, even smaller amount going to school lunch, which has an offsetting revenue, and then a small amount going to general support. So as we build this budget, it's part of a bigger, it's a piece of a bigger pie that supports the instructional program for the students. The story of this budget has been exciting because we've really built in additional programming with the staffing that's been here. Adding music at the 4th grade at WHBI, band and orchestra has been a huge success. And in this budget, and then looking to the next budget, giving those kids an opportunity to partake in space as we renovate it. So the construction is starting now, and just like anyone who's had construction done at their home, the contractors are paid very timely in terms of getting the construction going. They're paid up front, and districts issue debt associated with that, those construction costs. The state has a lot of complications that the teachers must navigate in terms of how they navigate the instruction. The state's not any easier with how they handle the construction projects for schools. Schools won't see the actual building aid, which for us is significant, it's about 70%. That won't start till the project is all done. This is a project that really goes across 2 years. So we're building some of those debt service transfer pieces into our planning. You see the construction starting now. It's great. We're taking part in having bidding early, getting off season with some of this stuff, so we're getting better pricing. But there will be some debt payments starting now to pay for that construction. The state of New York requires us to divide the expenditures into 3 components: the administrative component, program component, and capital component. You see a small decrease in the administrative component. Bookkeeping, as much as anything, is some of the benefits shift underneath that as a weight related to the other components. The programming component, we're settling most of our contracts with the different bargaining units, and that has an impact on the program component. And we've actually built towards that over multiple years, so it's not quite the steep budget growth you might expect with some of this. And then capital component, which also looks like a big number. But as we break that apart, you'll see why it's not as big as it sort of looks on the face of it. The administrative component, this slide and then also the next slide, is going down about $117,000. That is related in part, the way we were required to account for directors. We did have a director salary in here, which has been switched to a different part of the budget, so that's part of the decrease. There's also a decrease in terms of the way the benefits are weighted. I'll show some of that in the next slide, but really to talk about the professional development that's in this budget, it's in these federal grants. I keep repeating that, it's exciting, but I know that with Mrs. Trollster and the plans and principles, that the professional development we want to do over the next fiscal year, the funding will be available. Really appreciate the board's support on that. So on the next slide, I kind of show a little more detail, but still pretty broad, of where the changes are happening. That salary piece dropping, aligning that a little more natural, reallocating the director of facilities position to the more capital side of the budget. Contractual expenses, insurance changes, there's other costs in the contractual that grow. Small growth in supply materials, BOCES shifts upward as well. And then we have the weighting of the benefits that kind of decreases as well. So we have this relatively small decrease in the administrative component of the budget. Then on the programming side of the budget, what we've really been working on the programming side of the budget closely with the principals for several years. It's really been a partnership, and the principals have become really good in terms of communicating with my team and me as well about what their needs are in terms of their buildings budget. So we meet individually with each one of the building principals, the music department, the tech department, the athletic department, and really just kind of ask them on some level, what funding do they need to support the budgets and support the program. It'd be really kind of silly for us to ask them to carry out these programs without having money to support it. So that happens on a sort of a small group basis where we talk through their individual budgets, and it builds up into the program budgets you see here. The major increase related to this total change is related to the salary and benefit pieces as we have this growth with the settlement of the contracts, and then also health insurance significantly grows every year. We continue to see that. Well, districts have done a great job with a one-to-one Chromebook initiative. We hope to continue. We do hope to continue that, but continuing in terms of turning those over faster as they wear out, seeing them wear out kind of quicker. So we continue to plan to have the technology piece of this. This slide here, I really like this slide in terms of just kind of a one shot of here's some of the great programming that's going on. And I think it means different things to different people. And when we see these pictures, we put these slides together for the kids for the budget programming. It really, I don't know, it's nice to see this. And so as we kind of pivot into more details of what the program actually is, what the cost is driving. The salary, we do have a large salary increase. We haven't, knowing that these contracts were expiring in the next year, we have built some capacity with the budget to absorb some of that, but we do have an increase going into next year related to salary settlements. Equipment piece, almost strictly related to increases, budgeted increases in terms of where we plan to spend additional money on Chromebook replacement, on other technology replacement, some contractual pieces decreasing, adjusting more of our special ed from budget to actual, small decrease in supplies, and net benefits being sort of a major shift underneath the total change in program expenditures. Really kind of the bigger, I guess, highlights from this program section, the areas that are growing. Benefits is the biggest in terms of the budget. Health insurance, as much as there are good settlements within the district, it is the major cost driver for the district, and really outpacing inflation. Teacher salaries, K-12, are significant growth within the budget, as well as special education salaries. And then we have that computer equipment piece in there as well. So I think the public is really used to this second proposition on buses. And through our planning and our budget preparation, but the second proposition is gone in terms of replacing buses. The proposition is not so much to buy buses, but really issue debt for the buses. And we brought that cost into the budget itself. We feel it's a better budgeting practice because there's not interest expense costs. There's not legal expense costs when you buy the buses with cash associated with the debt. We've replaced that with a capital reserve proposition. The suggestion that unassigned fund balance be used to fund a $4 million capital reserve that will go towards funding the QES building. Starting to have those meetings, it's very exciting to re-envision that building similar to this building here, and we plan to have a vote on that in December of 2023. We really have built out our long-term planning. The long-term planning piece, tying these projects to the educational program, keeping the students at the center. I think we talked a little bit about what this capital reserve will do for the finances of the district. It really is the planning to allow us to continue to have the funding and sort of decreased infrastructure costs here to support the teacher salaries and support the other kind of program that we have going on in the district. We just kind of simply talk about what happens with this capital reserve, because it is significant, and want the public to understand why we're doing this. The state will pay school districts building aid, which I think we're all very familiar with when we talk about capital projects. We go out for authorization, we talk about the amount of the authorization, but very rarely do we talk about the interest cost related to authorization. So this will go out for a project, the state knows that they have to borrow, and they will aid districts on that interest. The capital reserve is sort of this financial planning tool that is contributing to the school district's financial health, and that you are essentially in some ways paying cash for those construction costs and receiving aid for the interest that does not exist. So this is sort of almost the metaphor for what our planning is in terms of what we're trying to do with building the capital construction, building the aid, and having it there to support teacher instruction. We have this large jump in the capital, but it's chopped up into a couple kind of big changes. The debt is happening because the construction is happening, so that's a piece of the growth in the capital component. We have a transfer of capital. We've been very successful with these kind of small projects. We come at small instructional spaces, improve them along the way. Do that in parallel to what we're doing with some of the larger projects. There's some music, art, tech, and fitness instructional space in the middle school. Then the bleachers here are failing and need to be replaced. And a single occupancy bathroom near those bleachers needs to be updated as well, and renovated. And then bringing the buses into the budget itself. So that's a big part of the jump, and not having interest expense, not having a legal expense. And it's growing within the capital budget, but it's smart budgeting and smart planning. So in terms of the breakout of the capital expenditures, we do expect salaries themselves will grow more than that $2,000 that's listed there, but we've built in that some of that capacity in the earlier years, so it didn't have to grow as much. We have the large jump in equipment, but again, most of that is related to the buses, growth in debt service, but again, We have the project happening, so we expect there to be growth in debt service. And then the transfer growth related to the small project in the middle school. So there are 3 board seats and 3 candidates for those board seats. 2 of the seats are for 5-year terms, and 1 seat is for a 1-year term. Mr. Mannix is the incumbent, running for the board again, and the lowest vote getter will receive the shorter 1-year term. That term will actually start immediately, and it runs through June of 2023. So the vote is Tuesday at QES, 10 a.m. to 8:30. I think this is a really good budget. It supports what we're trying to do next year as we come off the back end of this pandemic, but it is also ties right into our long-term planning, and we're excited to put this forward. Are there any questions I can answer the public here, or if the board has any remaining questions?
Board, have any questions? Members of the public have any questions about the budget?
Thank you, appreciate your time.
Next on the agenda, we have a public hearing for the Smart School Bond Act preliminary investment plan. Any questions from the public regarding Smart School Bond Act? We'll be acting on this in the June board meeting, so. Any questions? So we have an open forum. The first open forum is for residents of the Queensbury School District with questions, comments regarding tonight's agenda. Ms. Sheehan, is your for the agenda items, or did you want to speak at the second one? Thank you very much. Hearing none, we'll close the first open forum, and we'll start in with business items. Mr. Whittemore.
Recommended the board to business item A, motion to approve the following resolution. Resolved that the Board of Education hereby authorizes Queensbury Unified School District to be part of a merged girls varsity ice hockey team with Bolton Central School District, Glens Falls City School District, Hudson Falls Central School District, the Sterling Springs City School District, and the South Glens Falls Central School District, and that the South Glens Falls Central School District shall serve as the program administrator of the merged team.
Have a motion, please.
So moved.
Thanks, Tim. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Such a good opportunity, so glad to think outside the box. Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Mr. Shea on board. Mike?
Aye.
Opposed, any abstentions? Motion carries.
Recommended the board approve business item B, motion to award the controls prime contract to Eastern Union Fully Benefits bid $166,410.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thanks, Stacy. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Recommended the board approve business consent items C through T.
Any of the board members like anything pulled from the business consent items for further discussion? Have a motion, please. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, let's see. I'm sorry.
So
Yeah, thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Fran. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
I said aye.
Oh, thank you, I'm sorry, Mark. Any opposed? Any abstentions? This is time C through T. Anna?
Action item A, I recommend the board move to approve the probationary appointment of Andrew Snide to a 3-year probationary position as a high school principal.
So moved. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Pat. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Action item B, I recommend the board move to approve the following probationary appointment of Robin Scotland to a 4-year probationary position as the Director of Student Support Services.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Ms. Scott.
Action item C, I recommend the board move to approve the following probationary appointment of Sarah Tarantino to a 4-year probationary position as the Queensbury Middle School Assistant Principal.
So moved. Thank you. Second. Second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion C carries.
Action item D, I recommend the board move to approve the following probationary appointment of Mackenzie Roberts to a 4-year probationary position as a WHBI special education teacher.
Tim, thank you. Second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion D carries.
Action item E, I recommend the board move to approve the following probationary appointment of Pete Karate as a QHS physical education teacher, long-term substitute.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Brad. Second.
Second.
Grant. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion E carries. Pete's a better teacher. Doing us a good service, though.
I recommend the board move to approve the educational consent items F through Q.
And the board members require any of the items F through Q to be pulled for further discussion? If you want to- Okay, which one?
The last, well, I don't know, actually, I'm not really sure of exactly, I thought we were gonna discuss it. As
Which one?
part of, O,
The final approval is in the
on the 5300s, yeah. I don't know if it needs to be, yeah, I guess it should be pulled for discussion, I guess that's good.
Okay. So, do you amend the motion to education consent F through Q minus O?
I recommend the board move to approve.
Yes. Okay. you're gonna make it really- Okay. Yeah. Motion for the balance of that. Thank you, Pat. Second.
Second.
Thank you. B, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Educational consent items F through Q minus O. It's passed. I have a motion to approve the following policies, the 5300s, that is indicated by O. We have a motion, please.
So moved.
Thank you. Second. Thank you. Discussion.
Yeah, so in reviewing the policy 5300, one of the things that we noticed, and we're just looking for further clarification from the School Boards Association, on 5300.35 under disciplinary penalties, procedures, and referrals, it's section A. Maybe I should turn this on, I'm sorry. 5300.35 under disciplinary penalties, procedures, and referrals, section A lists consequences and short and long-term consequences for suspensions as well as permanent suspension. List the Board of Education as authorized. And in practice, that's not really what happens. I think having preliminary discussions with the School Boards Association, what it's probably referring to is appeals, but it is a little bit misleading in the way that it's written. And so I think it's important to just get some clarification on that, so it doesn't appear as if the Board of Education is authorizing long-term, short-term suspensions. We just don't get involved in that. That's left to administration. So I think it's just taking another look at it and maybe rewording it to make sure that there is any clarification. So I believe the policy committee will be looking at that.
So you're saying that the board is to act upon the suspension?
It's the way it reads, and I'm sorry, my printer was not working, but essentially the way it reads is it lists consequences. And toward the bottom of that list of consequences is short-term suspension, long-term suspension, and permanent suspension. And for each of those consequences, there's usually 3 to 4 individuals or groups that are authorized to incur those consequences. And in those situations, it lists principal, superintendent, and Board of Education. But in practice, Board of Education is not involved in short-term suspensions or long-term suspensions. In very rare instances, I believe if it were an appeal, that would be the case. But the way it reads is a little bit misleading. I think that there's just an opportunity for clarification as long as we're reviewing that. But we want to be sure, because we really do rely on the School Boards Association and their counsel to help us with these policies. So we want to make sure that we just kind of review that with them. So it's not just.
Larry, is that practice in any other districts that you know of? Yeah.
My understanding this occurs, and I think the way the policy was written against school boards is that those are the entities that were involved in the process, the ultimate process being appealed to the board, those. So I don't know that any district where the school board actually gets data administration, short of long-term suspension. So again, I think there needs to be some clarification from school boards, and I think it should be very simple. But this, like I said, it's just the first reading of this, so that corrections get made.
Yes.
And will policy be meeting between now and June?
Yes.
Any further clarification, recommendation? Are you looking for that to be removed, or I guess?
Yeah, I think that, we certainly want to be careful because obviously it was in there for a reason, and I think it was for appeals. So perhaps it's just additional wording to remove it in that space and then create something else that specifically applies to appeals. But the way, for me, as a general, a lay person reading it, is a little bit misleading. I know. So that was really.
So this being the first reading, we're just passing this for further review all for the next month before the June meeting. Any questions, board members? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Board committee reports. Facilities met with 3 committee meetings, I believe. Facilities.
One I attended by Zoom, basically continuation of the football field, or the all-purpose turf field that will be used by all general fall sports, and just some clarification on certain things as far as, one, the storage building, the placement of where that's going to be. We came to a decision that it was going to be on the south side, and we had to move that, so we moved it to the north side, northwest corner of the back part of, kind of at the end of the berm, where the berm's going to be, and that seemed to be a good placement for Lee to get his equipment in and out of there without much travel, for the conditioner that's used for the turf. Was it an out? So refresh my memory, everything I might have missed. I know you jet it out early too, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, no, that was substance. More importantly, the cost factors were brought down significantly. So there was quite a bit more detail with putting pencil to paper to iron out more specific specs. And again, I think it was maybe $600,000 we shaved off to decrease the cost of the field. So just with again, clarifying terms of what we were talking about doing as far as the size of certain things, storage. We're able to reduce that. It'll get fine-tuned even more now that we've really selected a lot of detail for the planners to go forward.
The timeline still holds to what we wanted to start in March, be done by August for fall sports of 2023. And JD into SED, correct?
Yeah. It's going into June.
Going into June. So get their approval and get that started. Pools, designs and stuff are coming together, and the different things we're going to be doing in there, new windows, new starting blocks, a whole new surface on the pool, new paint, new clouds that are going to replace the old ones that are in there, ceiling clouds. So there's a lot going to be done in there, and it's, the finished product is looking really, really nice.
Furniture was set up in the elementary school, correct? WHBI, sorry. So WHBI has some furniture that they can move around, see what they like and don't like. So those decisions will be made. That's it for facilities. Policy met, but was there anything else you want to discuss about policy? And health and advisory.
Yes, we met on April 28th. Oh, I'm so sorry. We met on April 28th via Zoom. The big thing was, it was actually quite fun. We broke into small groups and did a quick review of the climate and culture surveys, which I believe were administered last week. And I'd asked my daughter. It was last week. The final meeting is May 19th, and we'll review the survey data at that time. And that's done 3rd grade all the way to 12th grade. We focused on May being Mental Health Awareness Month, so there's a lot of brainstorming of ideas and activities that take place during the month of May, staff and students. There's a provider fair on May 19th, which is put on by the Warren County Interagency Collaborative. For administrators, social workers, school psychologists, and counselors, all within Warren County. And then there's a potential for summer staff development around teen mental health first aid.
John, safety was going to meet. You indicated. Did you meet?
Yes, we met.
It's a beautiful sunny day, right? We met outside. So the safety committee did meet today, this afternoon. Some of the items we discussed was we're finalizing the evacuation plan. So that is basically sent out to all the principals and the assistant principals for their comment. We'll sit and meet with them individually to make sure that everything is good, up to standards par. And that's for when we evacuate to Adirondack Community College. The other ones we talked about was badges for our substitute teachers. Should they be badged? Do they need keys? Do they need access to all the card readers? Or can we just, get them one key and get them in? That's stuff that we discussed. Other things we talked about was maybe standardizing the lanyards. All of us have the same type of lanyard. Substitutes teachers maybe have a different color lanyard. So if you see them in the hallway, you know that they're a sub or a visitor. So what else did we talk about? Anything else, Denise? It was
overall safety and protocols and badge pass.
badge pass, yes, thank you. So badge pass is another one that we talked about. So all the buildings have a badge pass. When visitors come in, you basically run their ID. So I'm trying to set up more training on that because I feel that there's more that can be done with that badge pass, as well as when the visitor's ID is printed out, they are escorted to the classroom, teacher comes and gets them, or one of the secretaries or administrators would walk them to the classroom. So these are all brainstorming events. It was a great open discussion. And I just gave a quick update on our lead abatement in the high school. That's basically done, waiting back on test results. And then the capital project, the roofers are going to be starting May 16th. They're going to start mobilizing and working at the elementary school first, where there's no solar panels on the second, third, and Head Start. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
You mentioned the lead abatement. Is that the cleaning of?
Yes,
the
the cleaning. Yes, everything's done. So all the material's been moved out. Everything's been cleaned off. Basically, we actually epoxied the floor with a special lead type of paint to help encapsulate the dust even more. So we're just waiting on the test results. Should have them back. They were told today, but they didn't come. So hopefully tomorrow I'll have those back and I'll let everybody know. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Board comments.
I just want to, I had band concerts last week, and I have to say I completely enjoyed it. I always love Mr. Cirillo's towards the end, final. Oh, I did that. Final concert of the year, because he introduces each senior and he always gets emotional, which makes me emotional. So it's always a wonderful time to go to those concerts. So I wanted to talk about that, and that I saw that you have on your slide, the QMS ambassadors had their paint and snack. That's paint and snack last week, and I was at that, and I have a lovely painting and an apron that came along with that. So it was a wonderful opportunity, but it's great to see all these things happening here on the campus and everybody back in. Those were 2 things last week in Austin. So.
Any other board member comments?
What John was saying about making mental health awareness month, I think it's been really neat to see. I think is it Join My Jam that the staff have. Love that idea. All the great activities you guys are doing. Just so nice to see everybody taking care of themselves. So if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of our students. So good for all of you.
The thing I wanted to say was, it's good to see, I know my girls were in it probably 20 plus years ago, that air band is still going strong. And, it's a tradition that hasn't stopped, and I think that it was very successful. Good.
Over 120 students participated.
I was reminded that, I think it was Mr. Keys was leaving an event, said he had to go to Airbnb. And I forgot to get your ear to say, I want a copy of the video of the administrators and faculty's performance at the end. Do we have that?
We do.
I was hoping to play it tonight, but I didn't get here tonight. That's always a special treat. You know?
I was very underwhelming, however, Mr. Luthringer. Yes, I came in second place, so. Mr. Keys did not get a single vote, so.
That's great. It's always a good time. I went through it as well for a number of years, so. I have a shameless plug for the softball team again. They're going to win the Foothills Conference for the first time in 20 years. 25 years. So congrats to the ladies in the Queensbury varsity softball team. They'll be ranked very high, seated very high coming into the playoffs. So wish them all the luck. All the other sporting teams are having great success as well.
They are. Girls across, they kind of dominated the spring season, being against some of the best teams, all the best teams in Section 2, and playing handily. But also doing it with great class. It's a challenge sometimes, the disparity within the league and sometimes within the section. And to work on the skills that you need to work on and stay sharp while not humiliating a program who's developing is a challenge sometimes. There's a great deal of disparity. One of the rankings has our girls in the top 3 or 4 teams in the state. And it shows last year's AA champ by 10 goals. Boys baseball has qualified for sectionals. I had a little struggle in the middle of the year, but I come on strong and won 3 out of the last 4. Doing very well. Boys lacrosse is probably going to finish second in the Foothills. Top 4 seed from sectional time. Many track and field athletes are working really hard and performing at a high level as they gear up for this weekend's Erie Invitational, which currently has 28 teams entered into mile split. We have teams coming from Long Island, Westchester County, State of Vermont. I think the entire Section 7 is making its way down the roughway for our invitational. So we're very excited for what that event holds. It's going to bring a lot of people into the community and back the economy positively on that day. Our boys tennis team in the Foothills will compete for the league championship next Wednesday against Scotia-Glenville. They look to be heading in a great direction as we move towards team sectionals.
I just thank you, Mr. Keys. And just we talk about it a lot and the things that we missed during COVID. But I think anyone that's been to the sporting events or to the other extracurricular events, the band concerts, you're continually impressed with the quality of our students and how not only do they perform well in their activity, how they handle themselves in front of crowds. Very hard to do for anybody that's never been up on a stage. It's amazing. I'm always impressed with the dance and the choirs and the athletes and how much it rounds out and completes their educational experience to have the ability to compete in extracurricular activities. And just I think it's helped immensely. You can see it in kids and the smiles. I noticed. I also officiate. Mr. Weaver officiates. You hear the joy. You see the joy as opponents talking to each other, just happy to be out there. So it's we're really fortunate to have the opportunity to back out in the fields and have the kids playing and performing. So thanks to all the to the rest of the board for giving the opportunity, the teachers and administrators and coaches for all that you do. And band leader, Mr. Cirillo, is fun.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that's right. That was Mr. Switzer
Yes, it was.
with your sword wielding. We'll get you an Emmy next time. That's right. So any other board member comments?
Dan, my daughter went to kindergarten roundup today, my oldest daughter, and she was just amazed and so excited about where she's going to be going next year. She got to sit on the bus and all of that. Been telling me about it ever since.
Oh, that's great.
So proud dad.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Congratulations for that. 13 years to go. A lot of fun times ahead, Mike. Anything else? I know we have a lot of informational items, but I'll leave that till after our open forum.
Just wanted to thank Mr. Switzer and Mr. Stein, Mr. Ham. Awesome senior prom, one of two. We had our first senior prom. They were up late that night, at 4 a.m. was the curtain call. So they did a great job. I thought it was very well organized. The prom was awesome for our seniors. Our juniors are on the 21st, I believe. Date right. And so I just wanted to formally thank them. They put a lot of effort and energy into it, and it's outstanding to see the kids get to have their prom. They've waited for several years, and they've been told it was in the fall, and finally they're able to pull it off in spring. So that's great. And then our juniors will be on the 21st. So that was a great event. So kudos to the high school.
I don't know if that's traditional, but it was televised live for the kids walking into the dance. Have they done that each year, or just something new?
I think we're gonna make that a new tradition. It's really nice to get access to all the families, friends, and relatives. It's a nice shift. I just wanted to give a shout out to Carrie Rodriguez, Jess Donnelly, for the senior class advisors. They really planned a really super event, well attended, and also the post prom party for the first time. We've always done it here at the school. Felt it was time for a change, and we shifted it to the Lake George Bowl. So I wanted to give a shout out to Jen Ramos, took that over, coordinates that.
I appreciate that, Mrs. Rodriguez and Mrs. Downer did an outstanding job as class advisors. They've just been amazing. The work was just, what a great night to see everybody smiling. Okay, we have any other board comments? Second open forum, Warren Sheehan. Step up to the mic. Evening.
Good evening, board members. My name is Corin Sheehan. I'm here tonight because on April 11th, I attended our board meeting and voiced my concerns and was looking for feedback. On April 12th, I followed up with an email thanking you all for your time and asking for feedback on the information that I presented to you at the meeting and have not received any response. What is your protocol and timeline to responding to parents' questions and concerns brought to your attention at our school board meetings? At our last meeting and in my follow-up email, I had mentioned again the idea of having a parents liaison, which I feel would be beneficial to both the board and the parents. When can I expect a response?
Well, at this point, it's not a question and answer, but I believe we all saw a letter Mr. Gannon had sent to you.
I received no letter. I've received no response.
We'll send it out last week, but certainly, I'll make sure you get copies tomorrow. Forward a copy to us, it's the day to email it to you.
I have received nothing at this point in time.
Okay. Well, looks like Mr. Gannon will help me follow, make sure that you get that. Thank you. Anyone else for open forum? So, okay. And the informational items, still a lot going on. There's art shows, something going on in each building on May 17th. So please stop by and see all the little gems, quality artwork that'll be out there. For the parents, senior parents and board members, there's athletic awards night, senior scholarship recognition. You'll get more information about those, invitations to attend, and awards. So it's a nice time of year to congratulate and recognize students with the scholarships and other academic athletic awards. Oh, right. So in June, this time of year, in July, there'll be, at the first meeting, there'll be an election of officers for the Board of Education. And in June, what we'd like to do is we started this last year. From this meeting, think about whether you'd like to participate as a board officer. And in June, then whoever's interested will announce that they're interested in the position they're interested in, have a chance to discuss any issues or credentials, that type of information with the board, and we'll be voting on in July with the new board members. Yep. Nothing else to come before the board. We do have a need for executive session. Pursuant to subsection 1F, I'm sorry, all right, closing up for it. Pursuant to subsection 1F of section 105 of the open meetings law, to discuss the employment history of particular persons and matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, or discipline of particular persons. May I have a motion, please?
So.
Jen, second. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Thank you all for being here this evening. Appreciate it. We'll have a workshop.
That's tenure review and it's curriculum renewal of 3 areas. It's physical education, art, and world languages. You'll hear more about the seal by letters. It's very exciting for the workshop.
That's May 23rd.
It's going to be station rotation, just so everyone gets a chance to see all the different.
Okay. And Mike, there'll be a link for executive session for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Nothing else come before the board. Thank you very much.